Banks have not yet closed. The borders remain the same. However, tensions are escalating. Secession is being publicly discussed by Texas politicians. Activists in California are seeking a vote. Additionally, in Vermont, there are some people who are actually considering moving to Canada. Not a joke. What's behind the increase in breakup rumors? Is it growing inflation or cultural conflicts? Or the hope of cross-border free medical care? Would flipping flags be something your state considers next? This is no longer merely conjecture. There are actual groups forming. Support is growing, according to actual polls. And you might be surprised by the explanations. So, fasten your seatbelt. Number 5 polling of secession sentiment. Rent that is increasing. A Civil War-like political split, with an increasing percentage of Americans expressing the opinion that we'd rather leave the U.S. entirely. Internet noise isn't that. It's information. The results of recent polls are startling. The idea of secession is supported by over half of Californians. 1 in 3 people in Texas say they would be okay with separating. New Hampshire has even dabbled in the concept. Here's the big stunner, though. Many are discussing more than just secession. The idea of joining Canada is being discussed. For what reason would Americans desire that? Consider it. Reasonably priced medical care, overhand gun violence, political serenity. And it sounds much better to millions of people than living in a country. Every election seems to be a matter of life or death. Are these merely speculative views or indications of something more significant? Because if the numbers continue to rise and public confidence in Washington continues to decline, when will this shift from fantasy to actual action? And who departs first if it does? Number 4, interest in Canada among immigrants. Rent skyrocketing. Hospitals turning. People away. Political discussions that resemble battlegrounds more than democracies. Millions of Americans are waking up to it, and they're fed up. Now, more than 42% say they have given leaving the U.S. serious thought. And their number 1 pick is Canada. Why Canada? Free medical care, safer streets, and more peaceful politics. For many, it seems to be the complete reverse of what they are fleeing. Here's the twist, though. This goes beyond a few irate tweets. Inquiries to Canadian immigration authorities are really on the rise, and thousands of people are presently submitting paperwork to relocate north. Is this the start of a mass exodus or only a trend? If you want us to continue providing you with daring, fact-based stories like this, please remember to subscribe, like, and share before we go any further. The figures are honest. America is beginning to lose citizens in addition to its beliefs. Which state might come next, then? Number 3 metrics for trade dependency. Complete factories, diverted freight vehicles, and empty rail yards. Stopped. Not due to internal issues, but more to the deterioration of commercial relations. For U.S. states that rely significantly on Canada, that is the risk at the moment. And the majority of Americans are unaware of this. Some states are basically economically merged with Canada. They do more than merely trade with it. Let's discuss the facts. Maine, North Dakota, Michigan, and Montana all depend on Canadian trade to survive. More than 93% of Montana's imports are from Mexico and Canada. Oil and raw materials are mostly from Canada. Moreover, $2 billion worth of commodities were exported by Michigan to Canada, and $9.5 billion of only automobiles and parts were involved. Here's the issue, though. What would happen if those trading lines abruptly broke? Or what if the U.S. adopts measures that jeopardize those routes? Without a steady supply chain flow from Canada, can a state like Michigan maintain its auto industry? Could Vermont withstand losing the millions of dollars in annual revenue from Canadian tourists? Doesn't it feel like you're already a member of another country when your economy is so closely linked to its border? Furthermore, that isn't a crazy conspiracy. That is the reasoning that is becoming more prevalent in state houses, forums, as well as regional business associations. The greater these states' reliance on Canada for their oil, automobiles, tourism, and lumber, the more joining Canada seems to fit with their actual economic lifeblood. Is your state still standing on its own, or is it already tilting north if it cannot exist without cross-border trade? Let's now discuss why some Americans aren't only trading with Canada, and what happens when these trade dependencies clash with public sentiment. They are prepared to participate. Number 2, geographical proximity to border states. Businesses clinging to Canadian standards and hospitals fighting to remain open. Clients and communities where Canadian news is broadcast on the local radio station more often than American news. Doesn't sound like a border glitch? Not at all. In some areas of Vermont, Maine, North Dakota, and Montana, this is the way of life. These U.S. states are more than merely Canada's neighbors. They are almost within its orbit. Cities in Canada are only a few minutes away from some communities. Cross-border unions, families with 2 citizenships, and companies that only exist because Canadians travel to shop there. A number of communities in Maine depend on utilities in Canada for electricity. Canadian tourists sustain local eateries and ski resorts in Vermont. The economic activity of entire towns in North Dakota is synchronized with cross-border trade. Now, for the startling query. Are you genuinely American in practice or merely American on paper if you already share infrastructure, culture, and even trade with another nation? Consider it. In many locations, the closest U.S. hospital is hours away, but there is a Canadian hospital nearby. Both French and English signs are present in several towns. School children are exposed to Canadian television, Canadian hockey teams, and Canadian lingo. This is when things start to get interesting. Emotional alignment is also produced by that regular integration. When people in small areas observe Canadian stability, they ask themselves, why not us? People in the U.S. or Washington go bankrupt when politics blow up. Some people in these border villages desire to join because they perceive something different over the street. Could there be a political change as a result of a gradual cultural merger? Given that the majority of your life already goes north, is it really that absurd to consider annexation? Do us a favor before we delve further into the upcoming bombshell. Please like, share, and subscribe to this video. We'll find more truth the more attention we receive, and you'll be more equipped to handle what comes next. Because how long before someone simply redraws the map when a state shares its economy, culture, and even emergency services with another country? Number 1, connection between social policy and healthcare. In the United States, medical debt is currently the leading cause of bankruptcy. Millions of people put off going to the doctor,